70. It sounds solid, doesn't it? Heavier than 69, somehow. I woke up to the smell of the coffee pot finishing its brew. Frank was already up, of course. He's been an early riser for 50 years. I came into the kitchen, and he was there in his golf shirt, zipping up his windbreaker. There she is, he said, smiling. Happy birthday, love. He came over, gave me a kiss that smelled like toothpaste, and handed me a card. It had a picture of a garden on it. Inside, he'd written, "To my one and only, love, Frank." "It's lovely, thank you," I said, and it was. It was steady. Frank is a steady man. Big day, he said, grabbing his keys. 70. Don't feel a day over 69, do you? Not a bit. I smiled. Good. I'll be back around 1. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And with a jingle of keys, he was out the door. He did his part. A kiss, a card, a kind word. That's Frank. I poured my coffee and sat on the porch. It was a nice morning in Naperville. I heard the distant rumble of the Metro train, just like I have every morning for 30 years. I was settled in, ready for a quiet day, when my phone lit up on the table. It wasn't a text. It was a FaceTime call with Sarah's name on the screen. I hit the green button, and my world exploded. Happy birthday, Grandma! My screen was filled with the faces of my 3 grandkids in Arizona. My daughter, Sarah, was holding the phone, laughing. Happy birthday, Mom, she yelled over the noise. We made you a sign, my 8-year-old grandson, Ben, shouted, holding up a piece of construction paper with a lot of glitter on it. My 3-year-old granddaughter was just a blur of pink pajamas, mostly a nostril and an eyeball pressed right up to the camera, shouting, Grammy! Oh, my goodness! I laughed. I could feel my eyes get a little misty. Thank you. Did you sing for me? They did. They sang aloud. Messy. Wonderful. Happy birthday. Sarah just smiled at me from the background, letting them have their moment. The digital picture frame should have arrived yesterday, Mom. Did you get it? Sarah asked. It's right on the counter. I said, we'll set it up tonight. Thank you, honey. Thank you all. We wish we were there. We love you. We'll call you again tonight. And then they were gone. I sat there, my coffee in my hand, and my heart was just full. This is 70, I thought. A steady husband, a wonderful daughter who remembers grandkids screaming your name. I am a lucky woman. I am so loved. I picked up my phone to text Sarah, I love you, and that's when I opened Instagram. It's just a habit. You open the app, you scroll, and there it was. The first post was from my daughter-in-law, Felicia. It wasn't just a post. It was a production. It was a 10-slide carousel. The first photo was a glowing, professional-looking shot of Felicia and her mother, Eleanor, at a restaurant in River North. They were holding up wine glasses. Felicia looked perfect. Eleanor looked thrilled. I tapped to the next photo, a throwback of Felicia and her mom in matching sweaters. The next, a picture of them at Felicia's graduation. The next, a picture of my son, Milton, standing next to them. All 3 of them smiling at some gala. And then, the caption. I had to put my coffee cup down. Happy birthday to my queen, the woman who taught me everything, my best friend in the world. I am the woman I am today because of your strength, your grace, and your endless support. Thank you for being the best mom and Mimi a girl could ask for. We love you more than words. She had tagged the restaurant. She had tagged her mom. She had tagged a jewelry store, probably for the gift. There were 5 different hashtags, including #BestMom. Eleanor's birthday was last week. I looked at my phone. It was 11:05 a.m. on my 70th birthday. My phone was silent. No call from Milton. He lives 40 minutes away in the West Loop. No text from David, my other son. He's local, but, well, he's David. He's chaotic. He'll remember by dinner. He always does. But Milton, and Felicia, the full feeling from Sarah's call started to drain away, and something cold and familiar took its place. This wasn't about being lonely. I wasn't lonely. I had Frank. I had Sarah. I had David. Eventually, this was about being invisible. Selectively. This was about watching my son's wife have the time and energy to create a 10-slide digital shrine to her mother, complete with hashtags, while my son, her husband, couldn't find 30 seconds to send a text to his mother. On her 70th, I closed the app. I looked at the quiet street. The back door opened around 1, just as Frank said. "Hey, honey." "What a day," he said, dropping his keys in the bowl. "Beautiful out." He looked at me. I was still sitting at the kitchen table. I hadn't moved. "You okay, honey?" he asked. His brow furrowed. "You look a little down." I forced a smile. The one I always use. The one that says, "Everything is fine. Don't worry about me." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." What was I supposed to say? My feelings are hurt by an Instagram post. He wouldn't get it. He'd tell me I was reading too much into it. He'd tell me to just call Milton myself. Frank nodded, accepting my "I'm fine" at face value. He always does. "Well," he said, "let's plan a nice dinner, eh? Just us." He went to go change, and I stood there in the quiet kitchen. But it wasn't fine. And I was tired. I was so tired of pretending it didn't sting. I pulled out my phone. I opened my contacts. My thumb hovered over Milton's name. I pressed the green call button. It rang once. I hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone in my hand. "Not like this," I whispered to the empty room. "Not this year." I stood there in the kitchen, the phone heavy in my hand. The ringing I'd cut off still echoed in my ears. Why is this one son, this one silence, the one that can undo a lifetime of blessings? It's the pattern, I suppose. It's the history. Frank and we've been married 45 years. He's a good man. He's a provider. He fixed the leaky faucet last week, and he always takes the garbage out. Our life in Naperville is steady, built on decades of showing up. But Frank is not a complicated man. He sees the world in black and white. You're happy or you're sad. You're busy or you're not. He's not the man I go to when my heart feels. Well, when it feels like this, he wouldn't understand the nuance. He'd just see a problem to be fixed. And his fix would be, just call him yourself. Or, don't let it bother you. I am a practical woman. I was an office manager for a surgical practice for 30 years. I managed schedules for 8 doctors, 3 nurses, and a front desk staff. I know what busy looks like. I know what it takes to put a reminder in a calendar. I am not a dramatic person. I don't need a parade. And it's not like I don't have other children. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Just landed. Talk tonight. Love you. That's my Sarah. My oldest. My high achiever. She's a lawyer in Arizona, and she's the one who calls every single Sunday, no matter what. She's the one who sends a "just thinking of you" text. She's the one who sees me. Then there's David, my sweet, scattered boy. He's my youngest, lives about an hour away, runs his own landscaping business. He's the one who will forget my birthday until 4 p.m., but then he'll show up on my doorstep at 8 p.m. with a half-melted ice cream cake, his boots muddy, smelling like mulch and gasoline, and give me a hug that just about cracks my ribs. He's chaotic, but his heart is right there on his sleeve. He's never once made me feel invisible. And then there's Milton. Milton was my bright boy. So smart, so quick. The one who got the big scholarship. The one who was going to change the world. And then he met Felicia. She is polished. That's the word. Polished. She's from a family with money, a family that cares about appearances. Suddenly, my practical, book-smart Milton started caring about them. 2. They lived in Seattle for a few years in one of those new glass buildings in South Lake Union. He was working for some big cloud service. Then they moved back to Chicago, not to the suburbs, but right into the West Loop. A townhouse that cost more than my Naperville house is worth. He works in fintech now. Felicia is warm in public. She's precise at home. She's big on optics. How things look. And her family, well, they look very, very good. This forgetting, it's not new. It's just louder now. The first time it happened, it was my 67th birthday. They were still in Seattle. The whole day went by. Frank and I went to dinner at our little Italian place. I kept my phone on the table. I kept checking it in my lap. Nothing. Around 10 p.m., a text finally came in. Just a text. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Work was insane. Just got home. Happy birthday, love you." I remember the relief I felt. He didn't forget, not really. He was just busy. I texted back immediately. "No worries, honey. We know how busy you are. We love you." I remember showing it to Frank. He was already half asleep, reading his book. He just squinted at the phone and said, "Oh, honey, you know how busy they are. He's got that big tech job. Don't take it personally." So I didn't, or I tried not to. Then, the next year, my 68th. They were living in Chicago by then. They remembered, sort of. In the afternoon, I got a short FaceTime call. It was Milton holding the phone with my 2 grandkids climbing on him. "Say hi to Grandma," he said. They shouted happy birthday, and he smiled. And then I heard Felicia in the background. "Guys, we've got to go. We're late." She came over, waved, "Happy birthday, Joanne," and the call was over. 90 seconds. It felt rushed, like an item on a checklist, but it was something. It was a call. I was grateful. But then, the very next week was Mother's Day. And Felicia's Instagram, it was a novel, a beautiful, long post about her own mom, Eleanor. Photos of them at a spa. Photos of them drinking mimosas. A long, gushing caption about how her mother was her rock, her best friend, her inspiration. My phone rang that night. It was Sarah. She was not happy. "Mom, did you see that?" she asked. Her voice was tight. "See what, honey?" "Felicia's post. About her mom," she said. "It's a lot. And she didn't even send you flowers, did she?" Because I checked. And I did what I always do. I played peacemaker, even with my own daughter. "Oh, Sarah, please," I said, trying to sound light. "It's fine. It's her mother. I don't need a parade. They took me out for my birthday last year, remember?" I didn't say it was to a loud brewery where the kids screamed, and I couldn't hear anyone. "Mom, that's not the point," Sarah started. "Honey, it's fine," I said again, firmer this time. "Let's not make a big deal out of it. It just doesn't matter. I was protecting Milton. I was protecting the peace. For the grandkids. You always do it for the grandkids. You tell yourself it's just social media. It's not real life. You tell yourself that being the steady, quiet one is a virtue. I'd been the family's, it's fine person for decades. I'd let it slide for Frank's peace and quiet. I'd let it slide to not rock the boat. But I'm standing there in my kitchen, 70 years old, my 70th, and I realized I'd been covering for him his whole life. But this year was my 70th, and covering for him was starting to feel like lying for him. And I was done lying. I didn't call him. I put the phone back down on the counter. What's the point? If I call him, he'll just say, "Oh, Mom, I was just about to call you." And I'll have to pretend I believe him. I'd be letting him off the hook. Again, I couldn't just sit in the house. The silence was too loud. I'm running errands. I called to Frank, who was now in his recliner, clicking through the news channels. "Okay, honey," he called back, not really paying attention. I just drove. I went to the grocery store. even though I didn't need much. I walked through the aisles of the Jewel-Osco, pushing the cart, feeling that strange mix of sadness and something else. Resolve. Maybe I felt like I was waking up from a long, quiet nap. I ended up at the bakery counter. I stood there, looking at the cupcakes. Big, sugary things with plastic rings on them. A young woman in an apron came over. "Can I help you?" I'll have one of those," I said, pointing to a simple vanilla cupcake with white icing. "Sure thing. Want us to write happy birthday on it?" she asked, all cheerful. I paused. "No," I said. "No, that's all right. Just the cupcake." I paid for my single cupcake and a gallon of milk I didn't need, and I walked back to the car. I sat there in the parking lot for a minute, the little white box on my passenger seat. It felt small, a little pathetic. A 70-year-old woman buying her own birthday cupcake. My phone buzzed. It was a text. For a second, my heart jumped. Maybe it's him. It wasn't. It was Sarah. Her text read, "Hey Mom, just thinking about you. Did Milton call yet?" I sat there, staring at the screen. She knew. She knew the pattern just like I did. She was checking in on me. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I could tell her the truth. I could say, "No, honey, he didn't." And his wife posted a novel about her own mother this morning. But what would that do? It would just make Sarah angry. It would put her in the middle, all the way from Arizona. It would ruin her day, too. So I did what I always do. I protected him. I protected the peace. I texted back, "Not yet. Honey, don't you worry. You know how busy they get. I'm sure I'll hear from them later. Love you." The little red receipt popped up, and a moment later, she sent a single red heart. But I knew what that heart meant. It meant, "I know, Mom, and I'm sorry." I put the car in gear and drove to the dry cleaner. I dropped off Frank's shirts. I went to the bank. I just kept moving. It was almost 4 o'clock when my phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't let my hopes get up. It was a text from David. "HBD Mom. Sorry, just seeing the time. Kids had practice all day. We love you. We'll swing by tomorrow with a card." And I smiled. I really, genuinely smiled. That's my David. Always late, always in a rush, probably typed it with one hand while yelling at one of his guys about a lawnmower. It was low effort. It was chaotic. And it was everything. Because it was on the day. He remembered. In the middle of his crazy, muddy, overwhelming life, his mother's birthday popped into his head, and he took 30 seconds to send a text. It felt like a small win. A little piece of validation. See, it's not that hard. It's not too much to ask. I drove home, feeling a little lighter. David had remembered. Sarah had remembered. Frank had remembered, in his own steady way. Maybe that was enough. Maybe I should just let the hurt from Milton go. I walked in the door, and Frank was on the phone. He held up a finger, then hung up. "Hey," he said, getting up from his chair. "I was just checking our reservations. I made a call. Want to go to our favorite Italian place in Oak Brook tonight? Just us." He was standing there, looking hopeful. He wanted to do something nice for me. He knew the day had felt off. He didn't know why, not really, but he knew a good meal at a place with white tablecloths was his way of trying to fix it. It was a kind offer, a sweet, predictable, frank offer. And I knew if I said yes, that would be the end of it. We'd go. We'd have a nice plate of pasta. We'd come home. And the day would be over. Milton would be off the hook. He'd call tomorrow or the next day with some excuse, and I'd have to say, "It's fine. We had a lovely dinner." I'd be trading in my right to be hurt for a quiet, peaceful dinner with my husband. It's the trade I've made my whole life. Peace for silence. I was so tired. I didn't want to fight. Not with Frank. and not right now with myself. That sounds wonderful, honey, I said, forcing a smile. Let me go get ready. I went upstairs to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. I felt numb, resigned. This is just how it is. It's not going to change. I picked up my phone just to check the time. And I saw it. A new notification. Felicia had posted again. It wasn't a main post. It was one of those stories that vanish. A picture taken just moments ago. It was a picture of a fancy, high-end pizza and a bottle of wine. They were at Eataly, that huge, expensive Italian market in the city. The caption was written in breezy white text, celebrating the best mom all week. They were in the city, right now, 40 minutes away, celebrating her mom. Again, my son was on his phone. He was taking a picture. He was posting it. He was looking at his screen. He hadn't forgotten. He was just busy with the family that mattered more. I stared at that picture. My thumb hovered over the circle, thinking about clicking it, about seeing the whole thing. I couldn't. I put the phone down on my nightstand, face down. I wouldn't let it ruin dinner with my husband. I wouldn't. But the sting, it wasn't just a sting anymore. It was a deep, aching burn. And I knew, no matter how nice the pasta was tonight, it wasn't going to go away. The dinner with Frank was nice. That's the word. The pasta was good. He told a story about his golf game. I smiled and nodded. I told him the dry cleaning was ready to be picked up. We were a 45-year-old machine, running smoothly, but my mind was 40 minutes away at that restaurant in the city, at that table with the fancy pizza. I slept, but I didn't rest. The next morning, it was just our normal routine. Frank was at the kitchen counter, reading the paper on his tablet, sipping his coffee. I poured my own. He looked up. Morning. Morning, I said, my voice a little rough. He was quiet for a moment. Then he cleared his throat. So did Milton ever call? I stopped, my coffee mug halfway to my mouth. I just looked at him. No, I said, just the one word. Frank sighed. He put his tablet down and rubbed his face. Well, he said, and his voice had that tone of disappointment he used when one of the boys had messed up. That's not right. That's just not right. And then nothing. He picked his tablet back up. He didn't say, I'm going to call him. He didn't say, what are we going to do about this? He just registered the complaint. He'd done his part. He'd agreed with me. Now it was up to me to just get over it, to let it go. I stood there watching him scroll, and I knew in that moment that nothing would ever change unless I changed it. Not Frank, not Milton, me. I didn't say anything. I just went upstairs and got dressed. I put on nice slacks and a blouse, not my usual gardening clothes. I did my makeup. I brushed my hair. Frank looked up as I came down with my purse. Out again. I have to run an errand. I said, in the city. That got his attention. I never drove into the city unless I had a doctor's appointment. The city? Everything? All right. Want me to come? No, I said, pulling my keys out. It's just something I have to do. I'll be back this afternoon. I left him there, looking confused, and I got in my car. The drive from Naperville to the West Loop isn't short. It's all of I-88, which turns into I-290. It's traffic. It's construction. It gives you a lot of time to think. What was I doing? Was I going to go and yell, bang on the door, make a scene? No, that's not who I am. And honestly, that's what Felicia would expect. Some emotional, suburban mom losing her composure. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. So what was I doing? On my passenger seat, I had a small, neat envelope. Inside were 2 birthday cards I bought last week. One for my 6-year-old granddaughter, Lily, and one for my 4-year-old grandson, Ben. Their birthdays were next month. I wasn't going as an angry mother. I was going as a grandmother. I drove past the United Center and got off the highway. Their neighborhood is all new. Glass and brick and restaurants I can't pronounce, with valet parking and patios full of young people with laptops and tiny dogs. It felt like a different planet from my quiet street in Naperville. I had to circle the block 3 times to find a parking spot, finally squeezing into a metered space 2 blocks away. The wind was whipping between the buildings. I fed the meter, grabbed the envelope, and I walked. I walked past dog walkers and delivery drivers. I got to their townhouse. It's one of those new, skinny ones, all gray brick and black framed windows. And right by the front door, there it was, a floral arrangement. It wasn't just a bouquet. It was a structure. It was huge, full of orchids and lilies in a tall, dramatic vase. It was the kind of thing you send to an opera singer on opening night. It was, without a doubt, for Eleanor, and it was still there on display. My hand was shaking just a little. I walked up the 3 steps. I could see in their front window just a sliver past the blinds. On their kitchen counter, I saw it, a large, square, very expensive-looking bakery box. The kind from that custom cake place in River North. It was the physical evidence, the leftovers from the celebration I wasn't part of. It was a shrine to the other family. I stood there on the doormat. I could ring the bell. I could force a confrontation. I could make them look at my face and see the hurt. But what would that get me? A flustered, defensive Milton. A polite, cold Felicia. They would apologize, say, "Oh my God, we've been so swamped." And I'd be cast as the villain who came to ruin their morning. I reached into my purse. I pulled out the envelope and a pen. I tucked the cards inside. And on the back of the envelope, I just wrote a simple, clear note. Would love your signatures for your thank you notes. Grandma. That's it. No, you forgot me. No, I'm so hurt. Just a simple, practical, grandmotherly task. A reminder. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't knock. I just slid the envelope right through their mail slot. I heard it land on the hardwood floor inside. And then I turned around, walked back down the steps, and left. The walk back to my car felt different. The wind didn't bother me. I felt clear. I'd done something. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. But it was done. I hadn't made a scene. I had just shown up. I had left a quiet, undeniable piece of evidence that I was here, and I was their mother, and I was not invisible. I got back in my car, paid the meter for the few minutes I'd used, and I started the long drive home. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove, listening to the hum of the tires. I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in 2 days. I was almost back to Naperville, just getting off the highway at the Naper Boulevard exit, when my car's Bluetooth chimed. Milton, the screen flashed. A call. My heart didn't jump. It just thudded. Once. I stared at the screen. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Until it stopped. I was pulling into my own garage, the door, rumbling, closed behind me, when my phone chimed again. A text message. "Hey Mom, saw you drop this by. Why didn't you come in? Everything okay?" I put the car in park. I sat there in the sudden silence of the garage. I read the text again. "Why didn't you come in? Everything okay?" The implication. The subtle flip. That I was the one acting strangely. That I was the one with the problem. Not him for forgetting my 70th birthday. Me for dropping off cards and not coming in. The burn in my chest was back. And this time, it wasn't sadness. It was anger. It was a cold, clear, 70-year-old anger. I sat in the silence of my garage, the text message glowing on my phone. Everything okay? That cold, clear anger I'd felt was a shield. It made my hand steady. I got out of the car, walked into the house, right past Frank, who was now in the living room. Frank, I said. He looked up, startled. I must have had a look on my face he hadn't seen in a while. I'm going to call Milton, I said. I'm going to use the study. Oh, he said. That's all. Okay, honey. He knew not to interfere. He just turned the volume on the TV down, giving me a quiet house. I walked into the study, our little room with the old desk and the overflowing bookshelves. I closed the door. I sat in Frank's big leather chair, and I pulled my phone out. I didn't text him back. I called him. He picked up on the very first ring. He had been waiting, his phone in his hand. Mom, he said, and his voice was all wrong. Too fast, too high. Hey, I was just texting you. Why didn't you come in? We were right inside. We were worried when Felicia saw the cards in the mail slot. Worried. That's the word he used. It's just, Mom, it's been a crazy week. You know how busy Felicia's been with her mom's new condo and the closing and then getting the keys and the kids. It's just been a total blur. He was breathing hard, just rambling, filling the silence, so I couldn't speak. And I'm so sorry we missed your call. We were out. But Mom, you know we love you. You know that, right? Please don't be upset. There it was. The classic Milton defense. He wasn't apologizing for what he did. He was managing my feelings about it. He was asking me to not be upset, to make him feel better. I let him finish. The silence that followed stretched out, heavy and uncomfortable. He was waiting for me to say, "It's fine." I didn't. "Milton," I said. My voice was quiet, but it was perfectly clear. He stopped. "Yeah, Mom. I'm not calling about the cards," I said. "And I'm not upset. I'm just done." "Done? Done with what?" "Mom, what are you talking about?" "I'm calling about yesterday." I said, "Yesterday was my 70th birthday." "I know, Mom. I know, and I am so sorry. I told you it was—" "Milton," I said, and this time my voice was sharper. "Please let me finish." He stopped talking. "I'm not going to yell," I said, leaning my head back against the chair. "I just need you to listen to me. For 2 minutes." "Okay," he whispered. "Yesterday, your sister called me from Arizona. She had all 3 grandkids on FaceTime, and they sang to me. It was loud, and they were screaming, and it was wonderful. Your brother, David, texted me from his job site in the middle of his crazy day to say happy birthday. I took a breath. Your father and I had a nice, quiet dinner. The day was lovely, Milton. It was full of people who remembered me. I let that sit there. The only part that hurt," I said, and my voice wavered just for a second. "The only part that hurt was the silence from you. Mom, and it hurt. I kept going because I was on my phone and I saw the post. I saw the 10-slide tribute and the hashtags and the tagged restaurant for Felicia's mom. I saw the effort. Milton." He was completely silent now. "I am not asking for a parade," I said, and I was almost pleading. "I have never asked for a parade. I don't need a public post. I don't need hashtags." I paused, and then I said the truest thing I knew. "I'm just asking not to be invisible while you're celebrating everyone else so loudly." The silence on the other end was so total, I thought he might have hung up. "Mom," he finally said. His voice was small. It's not like that. Felicia she just does that stuff. It's just her family. It's how they are. It doesn't mean anything." "It means something to me," I said. "It means her mother gets a party, and I get forgotten. And I'm not asking you to change Felicia. I'm not asking for that stuff." "Then what do you want?" he asked. And I told him. Clearly, I am asking for one simple thing. From you, my son. I need you to put my birthday in your calendar, like an adult. And on the day, Milton, I need a 5-minute phone call. That's it. A call. Not a text 2 days later. Not an excuse about how busy you are. I want to hear your voice. That's the whole gift. He was quiet for a long time. I could hear him breathing. Yeah, Mom, he said, and he sounded tired. You're right. Of course. You're right. I'm so sorry. I'll put it in the calendar. Right now. I promise. It won't happen again. It was the apology I wanted. It felt like a win. A small one, but a win. Thank you, Milton. I said, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Love you too, Mom. I hung up. I sat in the study for a long time. I felt lighter. Drained, but lighter. I had said it. I had finally said it out loud. The next morning, my phone pinged. It was a Google Calendar notification. Mom's birthday, 9 a.m. Repeats yearly. It was so impersonal, clinical, what you do for a dentist appointment. But it was something. He'd done what I asked. An hour later, a FaceTime call came in. It was Milton. I answered, and the phone was filled with my grandkids' faces. Happy birthday, Grandma, they shouted all at once. Thank you, sweethearts. I laughed, but my birthday was 2 days ago. We know. Lily, the oldest, said. Daddy said we had to sing again. They sang a fast, messy happy birthday. I was smiling, and then, in the background, I saw her. Felicia. She was in the kitchen, packing a lunchbox. She was in the frame, but she never looked at the camera. She never came over. She never said a word. The call ended. I was gracious. Thank you, loves. I'll see you soon. I put the phone down, feeling, okay, not great, but okay. A repair had been made. I went into the kitchen. Frank was reading the paper. Well, I said, pouring coffee. He's put it in his calendar. And the kids just called to sing. So, that's fixed, I guess. Frank looked up at me, and his face was just pure relief. See, he said, smiling. There. It's all fine now. I knew he'd come around. He was so happy. His peace was restored. And right at that moment, as if summoned, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text, not in the family group chat. A separate, private text from Felicia. I opened it. Saw you came by yesterday. Next time, just knock, smiley face. We were right inside. I just stood there. I read it. Then I read it again. No, happy belated birthday. No, I'm so sorry we've been swamped. No, Milton told me how upset you were, and I feel terrible. Just, next time, just knock. With a smiley face. That same, subtle flip. You were the strange one for not ringing the bell. You were the one who made it weird. I felt the blood drain from my face. I wordlessly handed the phone to Frank. He squinted at it, reading the small text. He read it, and nothing. His face didn't change. He just handed it back to me. Frank, I said. My voice was a whisper. He sighed. That deep, tired, please don't make this a problem, sigh. Joanne, he said, folding his newspaper, not looking at me. Just let it go. Come on. He said he'd fix it. He put it in the calendar. Don't make this a bigger thing. It's fine. It's fine. The 2 words I had lived by. The 2 words that had kept me quiet for years. And my own husband was using them like a shield. I looked at Frank. This good, steady man I had loved for 45 years. This man who would fix my faucet and take out the trash and go to bat for me against anyone in the world. Except, not this. He wouldn't go to bat for me against this. He didn't even see this. To him, this was just drama. Woman trouble. And I realized in that cold, quiet kitchen that in this one specific, important battle, I was completely, totally on my own. I stood there in my own kitchen looking at the man I'd loved for 45 years. And I felt completely alone. Frank saw the look on my face, and he did what he always does when he's uncomfortable. He retreated. He picked up his newspaper, a little rattle of paper, and disappeared behind it. Let's just have a good day. Joanne, it's all fixed. It wasn't fixed. It was just glossed over. But what could I do? I couldn't make him see it. I couldn't make Felicia be sincere. So I did what I always do. I took a deep breath. I put my phone away, and I went on with my life. The year passed. That's the thing about life. It doesn't wait for you to feel better. It just goes. And it was a good year in so many ways. It was a normal year. David started stopping by for Sunday dinners more often. He'd show up, muddy boots and all, with his 2 kids, and they'd eat all my pot roast and fill the house with noise. He never stayed long. Always had to get back to paperwork, but he'd give me that bone-crushing hug on his way out and say, "Love you, Mom. See you next week." Sarah and her family came out from Arizona in the summer. We spent a whole week with them. We went to the Morton Arboretum. We grilled in the backyard. I watched Frank teach my grandson how to throw a baseball. It was lovely. It was easy. It was real. We saw Milton and Felicia, too. We did the family things. We went to the grandkids' soccer games out in Schaumburg. We had a pizza night at their townhouse in the West Loop. It was fine. It was polite. Felicia was perfectly gracious. "Joanne, can I get you some more wine?" "Joanne, let me take your coat." It was all very surface level. We never spoke of the text message. We never spoke of the Google Calendar invite. It was a truce. The elephant was in the room, but we'd all agreed to pretend it was just a piece of furniture. Milton was careful. He called more often. Not for long chats, but he'd call from his car on the way home from the train. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. How's Dad? How's the garden?" It was work. I could hear it. It was the forced effort of someone who was trying to follow the rules to check the box. But it was better than silence. I took it. Then Mother's Day rolled around. On Saturday, a huge, massive floral arrangement arrived at my door. The kind of thing you see in a hotel lobby. It was from Sarah. The card was sappy and wonderful, and I had to wipe my eyes. On Sunday morning, David showed up with a big, beautiful hanging basket of fuchsia, my favorite. "Got it at the nursery this morning, Mom," he said, giving me a kiss. And then Milton and Felicia, they picked us up for brunch. "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," Milton said, giving me a stiff hug. We went to one of those nice stiff restaurants in Oak Brook that's all white tablecloths and hushed voices. It was fine. The food was good, but Felicia kept checking her phone. Milton seemed stressed about a work email. The grandkids were restless. It felt like an obligation, a very expensive, polite obligation. When we got home, I was tired. Frank went for a nap. I sat on the porch with my new hanging basket and opened my phone. And there it was, just as I knew it would be. Felicia's post. It was another 10-slide carousel for her mom, Eleanor. "Happy Mother's Day to my queen, my best friend, my inspiration." The caption went on for paragraphs. It was gushing. It was about how she couldn't do it without her. Photos of them at a winery. Photos of them shopping. And then I scrolled down. She'd also posted about me. It was one single photo from the restaurant. All of us at the table, squinting a little into the light. My hair was flat. Frank looked tired. The caption? "Happy Mother's Day." That was it. No exclamation point for me. No queen or best friend. Just a tag. It was so transactional. It was proof that the brunch had happened. It was an alibi. My hand was shaking. I was so angry and so petty. I felt ashamed for even caring about this. This internet stuff, as Frank called it. When Frank woke up, I tried to explain it to him. I showed him the two posts, side by side. Frank, look, I said, my voice tight. Look at the difference. He squinted at the phone. He read the post for Eleanor. He read the post for me. And he just shook his head. Joanne, he said, and his voice was so tired. Honey, please. They took us to a beautiful brunch. They spent all that money. That's real. This is just the internet. It's not real life. It doesn't matter. You're letting this ruin a good day. He was dismissing me. He was telling me my feelings were wrong. That the brunch, the gesture was what mattered, not the feeling. I didn't have the words to fight him. I just shut down. You're right, Frank, I said, my voice flat. It doesn't matter. And that was that. The year went on. Summer turned to fall. Fall turned to winter. And then it was my birthday again. My 71st. The night before, my phone pinged. I looked down. It was a notification from my Google Calendar. Mom's birthday. Tomorrow. The reminder. The one Milton had set. My heart, it did a little flip. I smiled. He remembered. Or, at least, the computer remembered. He'd done what I asked. He'd set the reminder. The truce had worked. I went to bed, hopeful. I wasn't expecting a parade. I just wanted the 5-minute phone call I'd asked for. I woke up. 71. I went downstairs. Frank was in the kitchen, and he was smiling. Happy birthday, my love, he said, and he handed me a small, beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a pair of pearl earrings I'd admired in a window months ago. Oh, Frank, I said, they're beautiful. You remembered. Of course I did, he said, kissing my forehead. At 9 a.m., sharp, my phone rang. Sarah, happy birthday, MOM, she sang, loud and clear from Arizona. We had a long, lovely chat. At 1 p.m., my phone rang. David, hey, Mom, happy birthday. I'm on a job site. It's crazy, but I'll swing by tonight with a cake. Okay? Love you. The day was full. My husband had given me pearls. My daughter had called. My son was bringing a cake. My heart was full. The only thing missing was Milton. 3 p.m. passed. 4 p.m. 5 p.m. I was in the kitchen, starting to prep dinner, and I kept looking at my phone on the counter. The calendar reminder had gone off. He knew. Maybe he was just waiting until after work. Maybe he was driving, and he'd call any minute. 6 p.m. The house was quiet. Frank was reading in the living room. My phone chimed. A text. My heart jumped, but it wasn't a text to me. It was a text in our family group chat. The one with me, Frank, Sarah, David, Milton, and Felicia. I opened it. The text was from Felicia. It's official. Happy closing day to my amazing mom. So excited for your new condo in Streeterville. She's finally moving to the city. And then the pictures started. A picture of Felicia and Eleanor holding a sold sign. A picture of them with champagne glasses. A picture of Milton standing right there with them, smiling, a glass in his hand. And then, right under the picture of his smiling face, a little heart reaction popped up. From Milton himself. He was on his phone. Right now. He was in the city. Right now. He was celebrating. He was hearting posts in the family group chat. He had seen the calendar notification. And he had not called. The Google Calendar invite, the fix, the promise, it meant nothing. It wasn't that he'd forgotten. It was that he'd been reminded, and he'd seen it, and he'd chosen not to. The pearl earring in my ear suddenly felt very, very heavy. The birthday came and went. The pearls Frank gave me felt heavy. David brought a grocery store cake over, just as he promised. We sat in the kitchen, and he and Frank ate big slices, while I mostly just pushed crumbs around my plate. David kept looking at me. You okay, Mom? You seem quiet. I'm fine, honey, I said, forcing a smile. Just 71. It's a lot. He knew I was lying. He glanced at his phone, then at me. Milton's a real piece of work, isn't he? He mumbled into his cake. David, Frank warned, his voice low. What? David said, looking up. We all saw the group chat. He's in the city, hearting photos. It's ridiculous. We are not discussing it, Frank said. And that was that. The phone call from Milton never came. Not on Wednesday. Not on Thursday. Then, on Friday, an email from Felicia, a group event, celebrating Mom's new place. Come by the amenity lounge on Saturday for drinks and snacks. Casual, 3 p.m. We've got the room booked. I stared at it. I was invited to the party that had already happened. We don't have to go, Frank said, looking over my shoulder. He sounded hopeful. Oh, we're going, I said. My voice was flat. David, are you going? David, who was gathering his kids' coats, paused. Yeah, Mom. I guess so. Gotta show up, right? Yes, I said. We do. The amenity lounge in Eleanor's new building was cold. That's the only word for it. It was all glass and gray furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Streeterville, but it felt less like a home and more like the lobby of a very expensive bank. Eleanor was holding court, of course. She looked wonderful. Felicia was buzzing around her, refilling her champagne glass, laughing that high, tinkling laugh. Milton saw us come in. Hey, you made it, he said, coming over. He gave me a fast, one-armed hug, his shoulder tense. He kissed the air near my cheek. So glad you could come. Dad, beer? He was gone before I could say a word. Just moved on. Avoided. Frank went with him, relieved to have a job. David went straight to the snack table and found another guy in a Cubs hat to talk to. He was hiding. I was left alone. I took a sparkling water, and I just watched. I watched Felicia fawn over her mother. I watched Milton act the part of the happy son-in-law. I watched Frank and David actively avoid the giant, gaping hole in the middle of the room. About an hour in, Felicia clinked her glass. Hi, everyone. Hi, she said, her voice bright and loud. I just want to make a quick toast. To my amazing mom. We are so thrilled to have you in the city, just a few blocks away. It's a dream come true. To Mom. To Eleanor. Everyone cheered. Clink, clink. I watched Milton raise his glass high, a big smile plastered on his face. He put his arm around Felicia, and that was it. That's what did it. The Google Calendar invite. The 90-second, sorry FaceTime. The promise. The dismissal from my own husband. And now this. Another toast. Another public celebration of her. I felt a strange, cold calm settle over me. I wasn't angry. I was done. I set my water down. And I stood up. I picked up my own empty water glass, and I took a butter knife from the cheese plate. Tink, tink, tink. The sound was small, but in the silence that followed Felicia's toast, it cut through the room. Everyone turned. Felicia looked confused. Milton looked terrified. I'd like to make a small toast, too, I said. My voice didn't shake. It was perfectly clear. I felt a hand on my arm. It was Frank. He was leaning in, his face tight with panic. Joanne, he whispered, his voice a low hiss. Don't. Please. This isn't the time. I looked at my husband's hand on my arm, and I just gently, pulled my arm away. I looked across the room. I saw David. He was standing by the chips. He saw me looking. He looked down at his shoes. He just studied the carpet, as if it were the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. He was gone. He wasn't going to help. I was on my own. And that was fine. First, I said, and I looked right at Eleanor. Eleanor, congratulations on your new home. It's just beautiful. We're so happy for you. She smiled, a little surprised. Why, thank you, Joanne. I continued, turning my head to the rest of the room, want to mark another small occasion. One that, well, it wasn't really celebrated. I heard a small, sharp intake of breath. It was Felicia. Her face had gone from confused to just white. She was mortified. This was not on her schedule. This was happening in front of her mother. Milton didn't look pale. He looked green. He wouldn't look at me. He was staring at the floor. Last Tuesday, I said, my voice quiet was my 71st birthday. The silence in that room, it was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the glasses. You could hear the traffic 20 floors below. I've been told for years, I said, and I could feel Frank's eyes burning into the side of my head, that I'm not supposed to let it bother me, that I should just let it go. I looked at Milton. He wouldn't meet my gaze. I've been private about it. I've had the phone call. I've seen the reminders put in the calendar. I watched Milton's head sink just a fraction of an inch. He knew, but I am done covering for it. This is the third time this has happened. The third time my birthday has been forgotten. I turned and I looked right at my son, my boy, Milton. I love you so much. You're my son. He finally looked up. His eyes were wide with panic. But this hurts, I said, simply, and I'm not going to pretend it doesn't anymore. I said my piece. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. And then I let the silence sit there for 1, 2, 3 long seconds. And then I let it go. I turned, and my face just softened. My grandkids were by the snack table, their eyes like saucers, wondering why the adults were so weird. I gave them a bright, warm smile, my real smile. Now, I said, my voice completely normal, as if I'd just been talking about the weather. This lounge is supposed to have a pool. Who wants to show Grandma where the pool is? I reached out my hand. My granddaughter, Lily, ran over and took it. I just sat down. My part was over. The room was frozen. The adults were just statues. It was Eleanor, of all people, who finally moved. She let out a small, tight laugh, and she picked up the champagne bottle. Well, she said, her voice just a little too high. Who wants more champagne? The silence was deafening. Frank was staring at the wall, his face red. Felicia she was just gone, a frozen mask. Milton looked like he was going to be sick. The rest of them, they just looked at each other and then looked away. Did I go too far? Or had I finally said enough? The elevator ride down from the amenity lounge was silent. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It was a loud, humming, angry silence. David had vanished, said he had to get the kids home, and I couldn't blame him. So it was just me and Frank. He jabbed the lobby button with his finger, his jaw tight. We walked through the cold, glass lobby. I could feel the doorman's eyes on us. Frank was walking a little too fast, like he was trying to outrun what just happened. The silence held all the way through the parking garage, the click-clack of my sensible heels echoing on the concrete. He didn't open my door for me. He got in his own side, slammed it, and started the car. We drove out of the city, out of Streeterville, and onto Lakeshore Drive. The lights of the city were beautiful, but I couldn't see them. The car was filled with a pressure I thought would crack the windows. I just waited. I knew it was coming. We were on the I-290, past the suburbs, almost to the Naperville exit. He hadn't said a single word for 40 minutes. His hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. Finally, he spoke. His voice was low, gravelly. You embarrassed them, Joanne. I turned my head. I looked at his profile in the dark, lit only by the green glow of the dashboard. And you embarrassed me. There it was. Not. Are you okay? Not. We need to talk about what Milton did. But you embarrassed me. The old me would have shrunk. I would have apologized. I would have said, I'm sorry, Frank. I lost my head. I would have spent the rest of the night trying to make him feel better. But the woman who made that toast, she was still there. Frank, I said, and my voice was as calm as his was angry. I have been embarrassed for 4 years. He flinched. He didn't like that. I have been embarrassed when my son forgot me. I was embarrassed when I saw the party for Eleanor on Instagram. I was embarrassed when you told me to let it go in my own kitchen. I am 71 years old. I've spent my entire life making sure no one else is uncomfortable. I'm just done. He didn't have a response for that. He just drove. We pulled into our garage in a silence that was heavier than the one we left with. He went to his den. He clicked on the television. I heard the low, muffled sound of a basketball game. That was his retreat. I went to the kitchen, and I put my purse on the counter. I felt hollow, drained. I wasn't sure if I'd done the right thing. I only knew I'd done the only thing I could. My phone, which had been silent on my lap, buzzed. It was almost 10 o'clock. I looked down. It was Sarah. I answered, my voice a little shaky. Hi, honey. You're up late. Mom. Her voice was tight. David just texted me. He told me what happened. He told me what you said. Mom, are you okay? The concern in her voice, it just about broke me. I think so, honey, I whispered. He said you told everyone about the birthday at the party. I did, I said. There was a pause. And then I heard her let out a long, slow breath. Good for you, Mom, she said, and her voice was full of a steel I'd never heard before. Good for you. It's about time. And I started to cry. Not loud, messy sobs. Just silent, hot tears running down my face. Because someone saw me. Someone got it. He said it was really bad. Sarah said, it was, I said, wiping my face. Your father, he's not speaking to me. He'll get over it. She said, sharp. He's just as bad as Milton, letting this happen. Mom, I'm proud of you. We talked for a few more minutes, and I hung up. I felt validated. I felt like maybe I wasn't crazy. And right then, as if summoned, my phone buzzed again. A text. From Milton. It wasn't a short text. It was a wall of text. A big, angry block of gray that filled my entire screen. I had to scroll. Mom, I cannot believe what you did tonight. You have some nerve. You completely and totally ruined Eleanor's party. You humiliated me. You humiliated Felicia. But worst of all, you did it in front of her mother. It went on. What were you thinking? This was manipulative. It was passive-aggressive. You're supposed to be the adult here. If you had a problem, you should have called me. You didn't have to pull a stunt like that. I'm done. I don't even know what to say to you right now. I read it twice. The key line, you did it in front of her mother. He wasn't angry that I was hurt. He wasn't ashamed that he'd forgotten. He was furious that his optics were ruined. The old Joanne would have been devastated. The old Joanne would have texted back, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I put the phone down. I went to my laptop. I opened it. I went to Facebook. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. I went to my photos. I found a picture David had texted me a few days ago of the daisies he'd brought me. They were in the little vase on my kitchen table. And I found a picture Sarah had sent of the box of chocolates she'd had delivered. I put the two pictures together. I uploaded them. And I wrote a caption. I just sat there and looked at the blinking cursor. What did I want to say? I typed, 71. Then I typed, thankful for the small things that are not small. And then I added the last line, and for the children who remember them. I hit post. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't mention any names. I just put it out there. On my page. In my space. I closed the laptop. I went and got a glass of water. 10 minutes later, I opened it again. My church friends. My old book club. My cousins. The comments were pouring in. Happy belated birthday. Joanne. So sorry we missed it. What a beautiful sentiment. You raised them right. A lovely post, Joanne. Those daisies are beautiful. Amen. So true. The small things are the big things. They didn't know the story. They just saw the post. And they agreed. I was just a woman thankful for her children. I wasn't attacking anyone. I was just living. I was sitting there reading a nice comment from my neighbor when my phone, sitting next to me, started to buzz. Not a text. A call. Milton. His name flashed on the screen. He'd seen the post. I looked at his name. I watched it vibrate on the desk. I let it ring. It rang, and it rang, and it rang. And then it stopped. I took a deep breath. And then I heard another phone. In the den. Frank's phone. I heard Frank's low, angry rumble. What? A pause. I couldn't hear what Milton was saying. I just heard Frank. No, Frank barked. No, you listen to me. I've had it. Another pause. Frank's voice was louder now. I don't care what she posted. I don't care. You're the one who forgot. You're the one who made this mess. I sat up, frozen. I had never, in 45 years, heard him use this tone with Milton. She's your mother. Frank shouted. I heard him stand up from his recliner. You will not speak to me like that, and you will not speak to her like that. You are a grown man. You fix this. You hear me? You fix this with your mother. And then I heard a click as he hung up. The house was completely, totally silent. The basketball game was off. A minute later, Frank appeared in the doorway of the study. He wasn't red in the face anymore. He just looked old. He looked tired. He looked beaten. He leaned against the doorframe. He just looked at me for a long time. He's upset, Frank said, his voice raspy. I just nodded, my heart pounding. I told him, Frank said, and he rubbed his eyes. I told him, you need to fix this with your mother. He looked at me, and for the first time, I think he finally saw me. I woke up. 72. It felt just like 71. But the air in the house was different. It was calm. I went downstairs. Frank was in the kitchen. And for the first time on my birthday in as long as I can remember, he wasn't reading the paper. He was just waiting, with a cup of coffee for me. He smiled, a real, full smile. Happy birthday, love. He handed me a card, and I saw that on the counter, next to his keys, was a little printed confirmation sheet. I've already got our reservation, he said, and he sounded proud. 6:30 at our old spot. The Italian place in Oak Brook. Just us. I looked at him. My steady Frank. He wasn't just giving me a card. He was giving me a plan. He wasn't just remembering, he was participating. He had seen what I went through. He had made his own choice. He had become my ally. That, right there, was the first and best gift. That sounds perfect, Frank, I said, and I meant it. I sat down with my coffee. I wasn't testing anyone. I wasn't watching the clock. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. My day had already started, and I was already remembered. At 9:10 a.m., sharp, just like always, my phone rang. Sarah, happy birthday, MOM. I heard the grandkids shouting in the background. We had a long, lovely chat. We talked about her work and the kids' school and my garden. We didn't, for the first time, have to talk about Milton. There was no secret keeping. No, did he call yet? It was just a call. It was light. At 11 a.m., the doorbell rang. It was David. He was standing on the porch in his work boots, holding a big pink box from the new donut place. HBD, Mom, he said, coming in for a hug. He smelled like sawdust. Kids are in the car. We're late for practice, but I told them we had to make the donut delivery. Love you. He was in and out in 5 minutes. It was chaotic and it was loud and it was perfect. I sat down with Frank at the kitchen table, a powdered sugar donut in hand. The house was quiet. My day was so full. I was full. And maybe that's why, when my phone rang at 12:01 p.m., my heart didn't jump with anxiety. It just rang. I looked down. It was a FaceTime call. From Milton. I picked it up. Hey, Mom. His face filled the screen. He was smiling. A real, unstressed smile. Happy birthday. And then the phone was swarmed. Grandma, happy birthday. Hey, happy birthday. My grandkids were shouting, climbing all over him. Lily, my granddaughter, grabbed the phone. We made you a card, Grandma. I can't wait to see it. Sweetheart. I laughed. And then a face appeared next to Milton's. It was Felicia. She wasn't holding a 10-slide PowerPoint of my life. She wasn't gushing. She was stiff. A small, tight, polite smile. But she was present. She was in the frame, looking right at the camera. Happy birthday, Joanne, she said. Her voice was quiet. We wanted to make sure we caught you. Milton's face came back. And, Mom, he said, we've got a dinner for you on Friday night. At RPM Italian. The kids are excited to give you the card. I just looked at them. My son. His wife. It wasn't a gushing, tearful apology. It wasn't a public post about how I was the best in the world. It was a phone call. On time. It was a plan. It was normal. The pattern was broken. That sounds wonderful, Milton. I said, thank you. Thank you all for calling. Of course, Mom. We love you. We'll see you Friday. He hung up. I put the phone down. Frank was watching me. Well, he said, sipping his coffee. RPM Italian. That's a nice spot. Yes, I said. It is. Friday night was nice. We met them at the restaurant. It was fancy, yes, but it was warm. When we sat down, there was already a card on my plate. I opened it. It was signed. Love, Milton, Felicia, Lily, and Ben. And the kids had drawn a picture of a cake with 72 lopsided candles. Frank was there, and he was relaxed. He was telling Milton a long, rambling story about his golf game, and Milton was listening. He was asking questions. Felicia was fine. She talked about the kids' school. She asked Frank about his golf game, too. She was polite. She was trying. And I realized that was the win. She didn't take a single picture of the food. She didn't check her phone. There were no Instagram fireworks. There was no performance. There was just presence. It was just a family. My family. All of them. Having dinner. At one point, Milton caught my eye from across the table. The kids were telling me a long, confusing story about a soccer game. He just smiled at me. A real smile. A quiet thank you, maybe, or maybe just, I'm here. It wasn't a grand, movie screen-sized gesture, but it was enough. It was everything. Driving home with Frank, I realized I didn't win anything. I didn't beat Felicia. I didn't force my son to love me. I just stopped making it easy for them to forget me. I stopped being the family's shock absorber. I stopped swallowing my own hurt just to keep everyone else comfortable. I stopped being fine. And in the silence that I left, the space where its no worries used to be, they finally heard me. The real quiet me They had to decide what to do. The family didn't transform overnight, but the pattern cracked, and that's the whole cake. My story has its new beginning, but it makes me wonder about yours. Have you ever kept the peace for so long that you started to feel invisible? That's the one I'd love to hear about in the comments. So many of you have been on this journey, and I want to know what you think. When Frank, my own husband, told me don't make a scene, what would you have done? Would you have just let it go for his sake? And that toast, was that a step too far? Or was it the only thing left to do? What about that Facebook post? Was it a clever way to finally be heard? Or was it just petty and passive-aggressive? Please be honest. If any part of my story felt true to you, if it felt like something you've lived, please like this video and share it. You never know who else needs to hear that they're not crazy for just wanting to be remembered. And please subscribe to the channel. We have so many more stories to tell. Thank you for listening.